Hello everyone, George LaTorch here. This whole video is an experiment. I've been willing to record myself talking about games and the state of the video game industry right now. And I thought that now that I have a YouTube channel and many of you have been extremely kind with your comments and feedback, I thought about doing this. Just wanted to distill my thoughts into a video. And there's one particular topic that I wanted to discuss with you, which is what's going on at Ubisoft. Stay tuned and watch the entire video because by the end of it, I'll be giving you a set of Ubisoft games that I think you should play. So, what's going on with Ubisoft? Perhaps you have read the news. It has been all over X. I mention X because that's where I started my main account. And I know that many of you will be coming from X to watch this video. So, Ubisoft, particularly Ubisoft CEO, recently shared an announcement in which Ubisoft, they sent this report where they will be updating their financial targets for fiscal year 2024-25. And there is one particular thing that I want to discuss with you, which are Yves Guillemot's words on the entire situation. Now, before doing this, I just want to talk a little bit about Ubisoft in general. Ubisoft is one of the most influential game companies in the entire game industry, particularly in the Western Hemisphere. They have an incredible legacy of games. They have fantastic franchises and IPs. They have Prince of Persia. They have Assassin's Creed. They have Tom Clancy. They started diving into Star Wars. Now, something interesting about Star Wars is that Ubisoft is no stranger to Star Wars. If I'm not mistaken, they published Star Wars games for the Game Boy back in the days, back during the 90s. So Ubisoft has an incredible legacy. But the problem is, right now, if you take a look at the stock, let me just share it real quick. So if I go and take a look at Ubisoft stock, and I go over a 5-year period, you will see that it's basically in free fall. The problem with that is there have been many decisions at Ubisoft that have affected its bottom line. One of them, and I think it's the most important one, is that their budgets have grown exponentially. And the problem with a bloated budget is that it becomes increasingly difficult to turn a profit. So that is one thing. The second thing is that apparently the marketing department thought that launching Assassin's Creed Shadows, let me just do a quick look over here. So this Assassin's Creed Shadows, okay? The problem with this game is that apparently it is not pleasing anyone. I will not go into the whole DEI conversation and the fact that Ubisoft motivated a Wikipedia page or the Wikipedia page on Yasuke to be completely edited to favor a narrative that Yasuke was a samurai. I'm more interested in the entire concept behind the game because this is a broken game. It's a game that, if you know, the Assassin's Creed Shadows was established on stealth gameplay. But now Ubisoft wants you to play as a tank, as this bulky samurai, that there's no nuance in the character in terms of how you can accomplish a mission. So, for example, the Assassin's Creed franchise was built on stealth, on hiding, and then how are you going to be able to hide as this massive mountain-like character, which is Yasuke? So this game, Assassin's Creed Shadow, is split. It's a torn game. It's a broken game because you can play as a stealth assassin, but you can also play as a tank. So my guess is that this game doesn't really know what it is. Is it an action game, a combat-driven game, which is embodied by Yasuke, or do you want to play as this female protagonist, doing stealth and hiding and doing kills in the shadows? So it's a difficult game to promote even and to market because again, the Assassin's Creed IP is based on stealth, and Assassin's Creed Shadows doesn't really know what type of game it is. So that is one thing. And then on the other hand, we have Star Wars Outlaws. And you have something like this. No one, absolutely no one, wants to play with a character that looks like this. It's not attractive, it's not appealing. But Ubisoft tried to push the agenda that this character was a character that would be appealing to let's be honest, a male dominated franchise. In this case, Star Wars. So with all of this context, I just want to go back a little bit and think about this talk and how it is doing. So there's a problem over there, right? You have, or Ubisoft in this case, has bloated budgets and a marketing campaign that is trying to promote games that are frankly not appealing. So the CEO is apparently aware of this. And I will be reading a little bit of what some of his comments on this whole situation. Let's take a look. He says, this report says, by the way, this is an official report. Ubisoft, as you can see over here in the link, it's coming from Ubisoft. So let's take a look at this. So Yves Guillemot, co-founder and chief executive officer, said, "Our second quarter performance fell short of our expectations, prompting us to address this swiftly and firmly, with an even greater focus on a player-centric, gameplay-first approach and an unwavering commitment to the long-term value of our brands. Although the tangible benefits of the company's transformation are taking longer than anticipated," and here's a comment on that. Those type of transformations will obviously take a long time, particularly within a company that's the size of Ubisoft. But anyway, let's keep moving. He says that we keep on our strategy focusing on two key verticals: open world adventures and games as a service native experiences, with the objective to drive growth, recurrence, and robust free cash flow generation in our business. That's the problem right there. So I could obviously focus on the whole DEI and all the entire the controversy behind it, but this is the core problem. Ubisoft is focusing on two key verticals, according to its CEO: open world adventures and games as a service native experiences. That's a terrible strategy for a couple of reasons. And I'll begin with the open world adventures. Open world games, particularly modern open world games, they are a resource sink in terms of time, in terms of money, and in terms of the amount of people you need to develop them. An open world, it's not a cheap game to produce. That is a problem because instead of focusing on smaller experiences that gamers want to actually play, Ubisoft is committing itself to this expensive model to create open world experiences that let's be honest about this. An open world may be interesting to explore, but if the gameplay loop is not appealing, is not deep enough, by the 10th or the 12th hour of playing that game, you'll be losing interest. So there's this problem where, and Ubisoft has this problem where it wants to develop expensive games, complex open world adventures. And in order to do that, they need to polish the gameplay loop to keep gamers interested in the game. Now, that's a huge challenge because you need a lot of money to develop the game in the first place. And you also need the game to be a complete success. It's a huge gamble because Ubisoft is investing a lot of money. I have no doubt that perhaps the company has huge debt in terms of all the credits and all the funds that it needs to produce these kind of experiences. So it's a huge gamble because the higher the budget, that means the higher amount of sales that Ubisoft needs to do with that particular game. So the game has to be a success, no matter the circumstances. And then on the second side of things, on the games as a service native experiences, that's another expensive model. So Ubisoft, in my opinion, should be focusing right now, immediately, on creating smaller experiences, on reducing budgets, and creating smaller games that actually turn a profit. Because if it's trying to develop a game that will cost them, I don't know, $200 million, $300 million, then on top of marketing costs, that means that they will need to sell north of 600 million just to break even. That's a huge gamble right there. And with the games as a service, it's the same thing. Because if you have a game as a service, you have it with Sony and Concord. They tried to push Concord, a game as a service, that first of all, they were charging $40 per copy. On top of that, they designed unappealing characters that nobody wants to play with or nobody wants to play as. So it's the same thing for Ubisoft. Games as a service do not come cheap. So that's the main problem over there, and that is the reason why we're seeing this with its stock. And now moving along with the CEO's comments. He says, in the light of recent challenges, we acknowledge the need for greater efficiency while delighting players. Well, if you're focusing on efficiency, again, create smaller games. Follow the Nintendo model. Going on. As a result, beyond the first important short-term actions undertaken, the Executive Committee, under the supervision of the Board of Directors, is launching a review aimed at further improving our execution, notably in this player-centric approach, and accelerating our strategic path towards a higher performing model to the benefit of our stakeholders and shareholders. Okay, again, there are two interests here that are colliding. First, a player-centric approach. I'm sorry, Ubisoft, but you are not providing right now it doesn't seem like you're focused on a player-centric approach. You're creating you want to create open world adventures, but the problem with those adventures is that they're broken. Just take a look at some of the videos out there regarding Star Wars Outlaws gameplay. The game is buggy. The game doesn't work. And then you also have Assassin's Creed Shadows, a broken game that doesn't know whether it is an action game or a stealth game, a combat-driven game or a stealth-driven game. So that is not a player-centric approach. And then you have this pressure because you want to benefit the stakeholders and the shareholders. And I completely understand that. But if you're not turning a profit, no matter the amount of stakeholders you have, and the shareholders that you have, they want profits. They want to have a return on their investment. And this stock is not providing that. So finally, as the CEO says, he continues mentioning this. He continues on this. Let me address some of the polarized comments around Ubisoft lately. I want to reaffirm that we are an entertainment first company, creating games for the broadest possible audience, and our goal is not to push any specific agenda. We remain committed to creating games for fans and players that everyone can enjoy. Okay, massive problem over there. Here's your massive problem, Ubisoft. You're trying to create games for the broadest possible audience. That's not the way to turn a profit. You need to focus on a niche. You need to focus on different genres. Just take a look at what Nintendo is doing. Nintendo, for a fraction of the cost, is creating experiences that are actually turning a profit in different genres. Just take a look at Echoes of Wisdom, the latest Legend of Zelda game. It's a spin-off game, but it tackles a particular niche. And then you have, for example, Metroid Dread, a game that is tackling a completely different niche. But if you want to make games for the broadest possible audience, you are doomed to fail. And you can reaffirm, and you can promise that you are not pushing any specific agenda. But when you're trying to do games for the broadest possible audience, that means that you will eventually push different agendas. It doesn't matter the political spectrum. So that's a huge problem with Ubisoft. This whole announcement, all these words, they are telling me that Ubisoft is in a terrible position and will continue failing. That's a problem. And all of this is extremely sad for me because I really want to see Ubisoft succeed. It used to be one of my favorite game companies. But with this approach, they are losing me. I mean, they already lost me. And it's going to take some time to take my confidence back. Now, thank you for listening to all of this. Here's one of the main reasons why I want Ubisoft to succeed. I really want it. Because they have these games. They once produced. I really want Ubisoft to succeed. Just take a look at this list. This is a list that I prepare for you. Ubisoft games you must play. So this is the Ubisoft that we all fell in love with back in the game. It produced Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, Assassin's Creed 2, Beyond Good and Evil, Rainbow Six Vegas, Rayman Legends. The entire Rayman franchise is fantastic. Far Cry 4 and Splinter Cell. These are the games that put Ubisoft on the map. These are the type of experiences that Ubisoft should be giving us. It doesn't matter if they don't have hyper-realistic graphics. The core gameplay loop is incredibly satisfying. So if you want to really understand what Ubisoft used to do and why is it important that Ubisoft doesn't keep failing, go ahead and play any of these titles. I'm pretty sure you will not regret it. Every single one of them has aged particularly well. In the case of Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, just make sure if you're playing on PC to have a properly calibrated controller. But every single one of these games is a gem. So go ahead, play them. And while you're playing them, keep this in mind. Why do these games actually keep you interested? Whereas Star Wars Outlaws or any of these new games do not. Ubisoft needs to get its act together. Thank you all for watching. Please follow, please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.